Uyghur Muslims, a nation forgotten. Uyghurs are Muslims who trace their roots back thousands of years in Central Asia, most currently living in the Chinese province of Xinjiang. The Chinese government has detained 2 to 3 million Muslims in concentration camps. Most of the people who have been detained are Uyghur Muslims, a predominantly Turkic-speaking ethnic group from China's northwestern region of Xinjiang.
Why can't we go through?
Because when I accept phone call from this area, and they told me that might be the journalist because you got like the equipment or hey please don't humor me without asking the permission from me.
In recent years, Uyghur Muslims have endured gruesome experiences of torture and indoctrination at the internment or concentration camps or prison, with the government's view to cultural genocide. They subject the Uyghurs to strict government surveillance and restrictions on religious rights to practice and religious freedoms, according to human rights activist groups.
Сұрақсан жаңағы аяғыңды жерден қысты ғой, судың қолымда мынадан таңды орынды қойды отырғыз қойды лауқытыңызға. Темір сауыт киім дейді ғой, тік тұрғызады осылай. Суды мынадан қысып тастайды, мынадан қысып тастайды, кеудеден қысып тастайды, дизайн қысып тастайды, осылай тік тұрғызып қойды. Сөйтіп жаңағы ол жерде сөйтіп қысым көрсетті. Содан заңға бойсынасың, заңға ноталар мемлекет 14-ші құрылтайдың мазмұнын жаттайсың деген секілді.
This is my father, Ayub Kurban, and this is my brother Ibrahim Ayub. And both of them are locked up in a so-called re-education camp in China.
我爸爸那个人确实在吗？因为我爸爸去年4月份以后，被带走了，然后10月份听说去年10月份就判刑了，判刑以后我又再也没人见过这。
It's Rayleigh, we're just in the main gate. Come now, come now, come now, come quick.
Surveillance at highway checkpoints. The Uyghurs are stopped for full body and face scans and vehicle searches. To pass, they must swipe their ID cards at turnstiles, prompting personal details to pop up on screens for officers to monitor, creating a digital trail of their movements. The Chinese authorities say the Uyghurs are being educated in vocational training centers in order to combat violent religious extremism, but evidence shows that many are being detained for simply expressing their faith, praying or wearing a veil, or for having overseas connections to places like Turkey. Human rights organizations, the UN officials, and many foreign governments are urging China to stop the crackdown. The Chinese officials continue to maintain that what they call vocational training centers do not infringe upon the Uyghurs' human rights. They refuse to share information about the detention centers, however, and prevent journalists and foreign investigators from examining them. This is a clear deception created by the Chinese government for the international community to turn a blind eye to the cries of the Uyghur Muslims and to eliminate all traces of Islam in the western province of China, with mosques forcefully being shut down, with Islamic features like domes or the crescent moon removed, or mosques converted into bars in cities like Kashgar by the Chinese authorities and taken over by gangs, with Muslim women enduring acts of exploitation by having their dresses cut forcefully by the police under the pretext they're too long, only to expose their sexuality and having to sleep with Chinese officials. Signification of Islam means adjusting a religion to be comfortable for the Chinese Communist Party, said Mr. Isa. If Uyghurs are thinking living Chinese, then Uyghur culture will be all destroyed. If right now just about any other country in the world was found to be detaining over 1 million Muslims of a certain ethnicity, you can bet we would be seeing an international outcry, said Sophie Richardson, a Chinese director for Human Rights Watch. Some former detainees were interviewed by The Telegraph have recounted horrific torture, being forced to memorize Chinese Communist Party propaganda and to renounce Islam in its entirety. Formal assessments are carried out to determine whether the children are in need of centralized care, with efforts to transform the identity of the Uyghur people. The evidence points to a parallel campaign to systematically remove children from their roots and forget their true identity and accept the communist and atheist ideology. According to the Islamic Human Rights Commission, research actions that are forbidden for Uyghurs include celebrating Islamic festivals, studying religious texts. The Chinese government vets who can be an imam, what version of the Quran is acceptable, where religious gatherings may be held, and what may be said at such gatherings. Recently introduced regulations forbid the local government employees and young men under the age of 18 from praying in the mosque. The Chinese government intends to remove all future teachings of Islam from the community, replacing it with satanic and godless teachings. During the holy month of Ramadan, widespread intimidation and provocation was seen by the local residents, from inside mosques to family homes. Mean residents don't dare utter the traditional Islamic greetings, Assalamu alaikum, while fasting is also banned, with restaurants forced to stay open, and at schools and local authority offices the Chinese government provides water, food, lunch to force you to drink and eat, said Dolkan Isa, president of the World Uyghur Congress. Local officials are increasing checks to people's homes to make sure they are not secretly observing the practice, according to a government notice posted online.
China is building a total surveillance state. It's a place where saying, doing, or even thinking the wrong thing can get you locked up in an internment camp. And as you can see, it's a place where foreign journalists are certainly not welcome.
Osmon qatib bundoq bir xil tuzallıqı. Başqa vaqtda şu tushlik tomoq, kech soat 6 tomoqdan boshqa vaqtlarning hammasida ergan soat 5:30 dan kech soat 10:30gacha uxlashga ruxsat yo'q, qattiq o'rinda o'tirdik. Bichar onam 68 yoshga bir o'qituvchi ona mush jazoni o'taydi ekan. Buni faqat bu mening ayolim yer shariga Uyg'urlab tug'ilgan. Buning jinoyati bor deb qaralsa, dunyoga Uyg'urlab tug'ilgan jinoyati bor. Odatlik bir tarbiyalash markazi turadi, uningga avvalning o'g'li yadi yotadiganligi aniq. Uning yadi, demak u ayolning qanday kun ko'rayotganligi hayotning o'laylik noma'lum. Ayolimning onamninki unda xo'rinlab Xitoyning qishnab o'tirishiga taqdim yetmadi mening. Men shunga o'lim jazosini etpason o'qning pulini men berma deb men dunyoga bayon qildim.
Şimdi dediğim gibi
Can I ask you some questions? Is it difficult to answer questions? They're busy, they say.
In June 2008, a court in the region sentenced 5 Muslim imams to 7 years imprisonment for illegally organizing Hajj pilgrimages to Mecca. They also charged the imams with illegally providing copies of the Holy Quran at a recent sentencing rally near Aksu city. The Chinese government is in direct violation of the Human Rights Act for crimes against the harvesting of human organs from the victims. The UN Human Rights Council has been told that China is actively selling human organs on an industrial scale to be used in transplants. Evidence comes from the London-based China Tribunal, an independent body investigating and exposing the highly lucrative global trade of organ harvesting. The concentration camps contain Uyghurs who have been interned without trial and are subjected to the most terrible abuses imaginable. The UN has been advised that the crimes against the Uyghurs that have been proved beyond reasonable doubt include being operated upon while still alive and having their ears, kidneys, livers, lungs, cornea and skin removed. A more cruel death is fathomable, and the victim's remains being packaged and sold off for transplant, operations and pharmaceutical and medical testing. Chillingly, these camps containing more than 1 million Uyghur Muslims in the Xinjiang province are used as mass organ banks where medics inspect the toll of dead prisoners and help themselves to use parts from recently murdered human beings.
Hello and welcome, I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're watching News X. Our big focus: Chinese atrocities against minorities are well known. But now a non-profit group, the China Tribunal at the United Nations Human Rights Council hearing in Geneva, claimed that China is engaged in widespread harvesting of human organs of religious and ethnic minorities. The organization says that Uyghur Muslims and the Falun Gong religious groups were subjected to the worst kind of atrocities. A spokesman for the group described China cutting out the hearts and other organs from living, blameless, harmless, peace-loving people. China has so far denied large-scale harvesting of organs, admitting to using executed prisoners' organs in the past. China claims to have stopped the practice, though, in 2015. The reality is far different, though, as China continues to fuel a thriving market for human organs. Joining us live on the broadcast, in fact, is a panel comprising of China NC spokesperson.
Comparisons with the Nazi regime are entirely appropriate. When we consider that many of these organs have been harvested from those who are viewed as enemies of the Chinese state, they include members of the Falun Gong spiritual group who practice a form of Buddhism. China's ruling Communist Party pledged to eradicate them 20 years ago, and the crackdown has continued unabated ever since. The Tibetans, the Uyghur Muslims, and members of some Christian minorities are also suffering the same fate, and the kidnapping of family members. Children are going missing every day and never to be found again. Have Muslim countries abandoned China's Uyghurs? Yet we see the Muslim leaders in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Egypt and other nations are capitulating to China's economic and political influence, rather strengthening political endeavours based on capitalist trade and economic investment, refusing to acknowledge the crimes of the Uyghur Muslims or take appropriate action against these atrocities. Is it more than that we ask? Have Muslim countries abandoned China's Uyghurs?